Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to The Art of Film Funding. I'm your co-host, Claire Papan, along with Carol Dean, author of the best-selling book, The Art of Film Funding. Carol is also the founder and president of From the Heart Productions and the host of this show. Our very special guest today, Christie Marchese, is the founder and CEO of Kinema. Kinema revolutionizes how films are distributed, opening new opportunities for filmmakers and studios to reach their audiences and maximizing revenue through screening tours, virtual events, and TVOD. She won several industry recognitions, including being named one of the Fortune's Rising Female Founders in 2023 and Fast Company's Most Creative People in 2021. Currently on the board of Subject Matter and the Reinvent Stockton Foundation and the Capacity Council for Brown Girls Doc Mafia, Christie holds a BA from SDSU in International Security and Conflict Resolution with a focus on Arabic and the Middle East. And she's one of the creators of the Distribution Playbook. And Carol, I know you are a big supporter of Christie, and you've been promoting Christie's Distribution Playbook as an important educational tool for filmmakers.
That's right, Claire. It's a great book. It's really one of the most amazing contributions made to filmmaking in a long time. And thank you so much, Christie, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. And, of course, I always want to make sure, which you gals know, but Emily Best was 100% the other co-creator in this. And, of course, we had other collaborators since that have submitted other pieces to it. So thank you for highlighting it and supporting it.
Yes, John Reese was in there. I love his work. He's always been on top of what is it you want to do. You have to be clear from the moment you start that film on where you want it to go, what's your destination. And this is so important to have. You've highlighted all the important things. Before you get started, let's set these things in motion, is what the book says. So what we want to cover today is I want to know more about Kinema and how you plan to reach this wider, more targeted audience. And what are the latest trends in distributions for independent filmmakers? Those are the things we want to cover. So let's start with Kinema's vision. What inspired you to create it, and how does it differ from traditional distribution platforms?
Oh, sure. I'm happy to chat about that. And you're right. There are so many topics we can cover in this. So I'm excited to see how much we can fit in. And I'm a huge fan of John Reese, too. Actually, it's so funny. I just got off a call with him because he's doing some incredible strategic distribution work for a film that we did on the platform. That kind of highlights the work that we're doing. So we built Kinema. We started a few years ago, and it was built off of the work I did at an agency I started and ran called Picture Motion. Picture Motion was an impact agency. I shouldn't say was, is an impact agency in the entertainment space. By filmmakers, distributors, streamers, studios, and brands to develop and implement impact campaigns around social issue or social cause, film and TV. And a big part of that for film became screening tours. How do we bring the film to the people who want to and need to see it most? And it's a pretty logistical thing, running screening tours. You know, you're reaching out to potential organizations and spaces to host screenings. You're sending a licensing agreement. Oftentimes they're paying that licensing fee. You have to send the film file. It's very tactical. And so the idea for Kinema from a logistics standpoint was, let's just make this easier using technology. Let's sign an agreement online, book the film online, send the film online, and that'll cut down on costs and allow us to reach more people. So that was the initial concept. And, of course, it's shifted over the last few years, and we now support both the in-person screenings that inspired this originally and virtual events. And virtual events allow us to reach audiences that are not geographically tied together. So if it's a nonprofit organization with a global following, or an influencer with a more local following, but not all in the exact same city, but maybe across the state, they can then come together and watch the film online. And our approach for Kinema was initially much more focused on the screening host and the organizers and making it easier for them. But with all the changes in distribution over the last few years, we've even shifted our focus and mission to better serve the creative community. How do we create tools that allow filmmakers who are opting to go more the we don't want to say self-distribution or active distribution route and manage their film's distribution themselves? How do we give them the best set of tools to reach those audiences, those screening hosts, in an affordable, efficient way? And so to kind of home back in on your question, you're often, and to what John says a lot, you're as a filmmaker, you need to know who your film is for. And I think it was Emily or someone who said, if you say your film is for everyone, it's for nobody. If your film's for everyone, it's for no one. And so you have to know who that audience is and how to reach them. And so our idea is that our system allows it to make it easier for once you reach that audience, for them to watch the film or to host a screening of the film, and for you to collect and store that information. Who is that screening host? Where did they watch the film? And if they want to receive information from you, continue to build a relationship and email that person or screening host afterwards. That's a quick, not so quick history of Kinema
right.
And what we're focused on.
Yes, so it's a new form of distribution, right? And it's identifying your audience and making your film for that audience and getting it screened as to those people that are interested in it. Or if it's to change thought patterns, if you have to change someone's idea on a subject, then you know how to get it to the right people to achieve your goal, correct?
Yeah. I'd say and the new distribution piece of it is really the application of technology. When I think about what is new distribution, it is mostly related to technology or the types of rights. So whether you have the different types of VOD rights or subscription VOD, like a Netflix, that's a new type of distribution. Advertising VOD, AVOD, it's another type of distribution that didn't quite exist before. But for this, half of our platform is more community cinema. And the concept of community cinema has been around for a while, bringing people together to watch a movie and have a conversation afterwards. The new piece for us is the technology and making it easier to do so.
Exactly. Well, in the distribution playbook, can you give us an overview of what it covers and how filmmakers can best utilize it?
Oh, yeah. I'd say in order to utilize it, you can go to thedistanceplaybook.com or distributionplaybook.notion.site, as we built it on Notion. And our intent is to cover as much as possible, but be an entry point without going too in depth on every aspect of it, because that could be endless. And we, when I say we, I mean Emily and I want to remind people it's coming from a U.S. perspective, because their film distribution does look different in different countries and territories, and of course language. So the idea is twofold. One, let's not gatekeep this information. Much of the information is withheld in different parts of the industry. Theatrical distributors really know theatrical distribution super well. Grassroots community organizers know that type of distribution. The technologists know the streaming platforms really well. So how can we kind of share the entry-level information across all of those areas? And another piece that was really important, and Emily did a great job of this, was remind people before they read the playbook or enter into it, there are some really important things to understand before getting started. And it's not to be pessimistic about it. It's just to be a little bit realistic about statistically how difficult it is to have significant success for any one film in the independent space, especially earlier in your career. And so I think she does a great job of kind of embracing that. Remember that most movies don't make their money back. When it comes to distribution, no one's going to solve this problem for you. You care about your film the most, and so it is ultimately up to you to steer that ship. And to remember that all distribution is active distribution. Even if you're the biggest celebrity and you're making a Marvel movie and Disney's distributing it, you're participating in the distribution by promoting it. You're participating in the publicity. So everybody is a part of the distribution. There are very little instances of someone just taking your film, running with it, and you're off scot-free. So That was the original idea. And two, and
that's what a lot of
works
people
for you.
think. They think that I just, I've had people sign away all their rights, and I say, how could you do that? I was tired. I was at the end of finally had a cut, and somebody liked it and said, oh, I'd love to distribute that. And they didn't give me any money, but they said, oh, you'll share and you'll make money in the future. And I never saw a penny. And this has happened so many times, Christie.
Oh, you're so right. And the exhaustion is so real. It's exhausting. Someone said that, like, I don't know, probably Bob Iger or someone was like, it's a miracle that a movie gets made sometimes, especially a good one. The amount of things that have to come together, the having to sell your idea, you're like, this is an idea in my brain, and I need to put some money against it. That is exhausting to sell and fund it. Then you go into the production part. It's exhausting to do the production. Then you're in the editing. It's of course you love it, but it's a tax. And then, of course, that's the part you sign up for as a filmmaker, and you go to film school or you watch movies and get love for it. There isn't really a distribution school. There isn't a marketing school specific to film. So I could totally understand that exhaustion and wanting to hand it off to someone.
Yes, and so this is why I jumped with joy when I saw that before you get started. And one of the things I loved was the goal you put in there. What's your goal? Make a decision now. What do you want to achieve? Thank you very much for that. Why did you think that was important?
We used to do that at Picture Motion when we would talk to filmmakers, and part of that is we're coming from the impact perspective, and we knew the film was about some sort of social issue, but we wanted to understand how to best build a campaign. And we find most disappointments in life come from unmet expectations, when two parties have different set of expectations. So what we're trying to do is get expectations in line. What is success? And of course, like, we want to create change with this film. But also, there are many other factors at play here. Is there debt that needs to get repaid? Are there investors expecting to get repayments? Is this the filmmaker's first film and they want to get their second project funded? Is it really just about the social issue? So we would ask them either to pick a top three or top one, or put in order, like, what is most important to you? And there was no wrong answer. Truly, do you want to win an award? Do you want to get your next project funded? Do you want to make change? And that just helps us better strategize. And I think for the filmmakers, especially as it relates to distribution, it helps you make choices better. So you can decide, should I spend my time and money on going on the festival tour? Should I spend my time and money on the impact producers? Should I spend my time and money on applying for different awards? And once you know what's important to you and what your goals are for yourself as a career and for your film and the obligations you've committed to, then you know those goals, then you can make better decisions.
Absolutely. And you could make money. Making money is another answer, right? And and some people want to change belief patterns. That's important.
Yes.
And all of these require a different slant on your distribution, right?
Correct. It's true. Yes, you just have
distributors,
who you work with, where you spend your money.
Yes, and the most important thing is getting that clear up front. You may change your mind because it may take you 2 or 3 years to make the film, during which you learn so much. You say, no, I'm not going after money. I'm going after my second film. Yeah, I know how hard it is now. So I want some following for my second film, and I want some money for it. So how do I get that? And that's good, too. So, but now you get into Sundance better than anyone I've ever seen, with the festival acceptance rates and how difficult it is. And please share this with me, and I'll tell you one thing. We run a film grant, and marketing is a key issue with me. And so I can tell in the future I'll be able to say, she read the distribution playbook. She knows what she's talking about. But right now, Christie, 50% of the people say, my film will be screened at Sundance or Toronto or Berlin. Definitely. And they truly believe that. I get one paragraph on distribution. And that's when I know that this filmmaker is in big trouble, right?
I mean, I will say that if you're going to enter, it's like entering into a startup, starting your own company or starting a new bravado and the audacity to believe that you can do it, because everyone's going to fight against you. So I would say it is absolutely helpful to have that dream and the belief and the audacity to do it, but always have the practicality of your backup plan, or a conversation, talking about industry trends, a conversation I'm seeing happen more and more is don't think of it as a backup plan. Like, of course you want that perfect Netflix deal to premiere at Sundance and have that $10 million documentary acquisition. But you also are giving up a lot of your rights, to your point, as you said earlier, Carol. So what if plan A was controlling your distribution? Plan A was, all right, I'm going to raise enough funds, equal to the amount of making my film, or at least 50%. And if I were to choose to do my own distribution, I would put it on these platforms for PVOD, and then TVOD, and then AVOD. And here's my marketing budget to do my own screening tour and press events and run my own advertising. Because I own all my film, I would get much better, or my rights, I would get a better splits on everything. I'm not sharing it with the distributor in the same way. So I hope that we, yes, have the dream, have the audacity, because you're going to need that to get you through it, but also put together a smart plan and fund it when you're funding production, which I'm fully aware is much more easier said than done.
Yes, but you have to know the truth. You're making us face the truth. Like it or not, that's just what's going on. So you better pull out your best creativity and realize that you're going to have to give up probably surfing the web, or your favorite social network hanging out is no longer viable for you. You're going to have to go to work, right?
I mean, it's true. I compare it a lot. I have not made a film as a filmmaker on my own. I started college in film school. I wanted to be an editor. I really love editing. That's the place where I felt most comfortable in the filmmaking process, and it made a short sense. But it's in starting two companies, having two different types of startups, one an agency and one a tech company. I feel it's very similar to, in some ways, to making a film, where it's having to sell people on a belief, helping them create a vision in their head of what's in your head, and sell them on that, and then also show them how that's going to make them money. Because a lot of our investors that have raised money for the second company, they're investing because they want this company to exist. They truly want us to help solve this problem when it comes to distribution. And some investors do actually want and need, understandably, their money back with a margin, with a return. And so I understand what it's like to have to sell that vision. But in the startup world, in the business world, it's not just about the product you're building. It's also, well, how am I going to get people to that product? So if I'm making a startup company, spoons or forks, I can't just make it and let it sit there. I got to present my marketing plan for how I sell those spoons and forks. And I think that's the piece that's also missing from and is changing in the last couple of years, but goal or filmmaker education, that the whole film, the whole business of your film doesn't end in the editing room. It ends after you kind of recouped your funds or you've moved on to your next project. Your film is the marketing and distribution as much as it is the production.
Exactly. And I heard you mention influencers early on, and I'm beginning to realize the power of influencers for independent filmmakers. Can you speak to that?
Yes, it's a part of the marketing we did at Picture Motion was this, we call outreach. Often in independent film space, part of a marketing strategy is called outreach. It loosely means I'm going to do email marketing, or I'm going to pitch to organizations and businesses that have a following. They have an email list of some sort because their audience, their email list is interested in the topics or issues that my film is on. Or if it's, horses. I have a documentary on horses. I'm going to go to the different horse communities and horse training sites across the U.S. and say, hey, would you promote this film? The virtual version of that now which has been amplified times a gazillion, are influencers. So it's another type of marketing, and there's fun conversations around, like, is that a form of PR? So just as you have an audience right here for the Art of Film Funding and Blog Talk Radio, like you are an influencer in a sense, but you're coming at it from a journalistic perspective. So influencers are in the same way. They've just built a following off of their personality or whatever their topic is. And so, yeah, I think it has to be absolutely a part of your marketing strategy. Now that the influencer industry has evolved, it often will cost something. Like, you may have to pay an influencer. And that's where it gets a little dicey and you have to assess if it's correct for your film. So there are different ways that you could do affiliate fees. If an influencer is promoting seeing your film in theaters or promoting it to watch on, iTunes, Apple, Amazon, they will get an affiliate fee for the sales that come from their promotion of it. You can pay them for a product placement, like, hey, watch the film, and if you like it, give it a review or something. For someone who's maybe not a traditional film critic as an influencer, but they just cover this topic in some way. Or you invite them to a screening or a local screening of the film, and then should they choose organically to cover it, that's a way to help get your film's word of mouth out through their audience. So I do think influencer strategy has to be a part of it, but it's not so different from what we would call outreach in the more impact independent film world.
Well, I was listening to a gentleman who's really good at public relations, and he said that nowadays when people are releasing the top A quality films, they get their influencers on first class, bring them to the city where they're releasing the film, put them up in a posh hotel, treat them like royalty, and send them back home. And, of course, they're going to write something nice about the film. And that's in the budget. That's part of it, where they might spend that on advertising in the past. They're putting it on influencers in the present. So they are a very important aspect.
You're totally right. And there's a lot of, because they're technically not journalists, so they don't have the same journalistic guidelines. And so they can be treated to a beautiful experience and be influenced themselves to write about how beautiful that experience is. They also might not. You could pay a lot of money to have them in a nice hotel, and if they don't like the film, they might say that to their audience. And that's like a risk willing to take, just like going to a critic, in a sense. They'll tell their honest opinion. And if their audience, the fun part about that is there's a market correction in a sense. If the influencer starts to look like they're too wined and dined, by brands, their influencers will stop believing them and their impact becomes ineffective. So I think it makes sense if you have the budget to bring into something great, but also look at micro influencers. Like my friend was telling me her nieces that are in high school are micro influencers. They get free makeup and bathing suits because they have maybe 2,000 followers or something. Yeah, they're not getting paid. They just get products. I'm like, how do I do that? I want some free product. But they have influence in their community. Yeah.
Well, this is teaching children at a young age how to market themselves and how to make money. Entrepreneurs they're creating. That's good.
Oh, my God. Is this the new lemonade stand? Instead of a lemonade stand on the street corner, it's influencing through TikTok?
That's exactly right. Oh, God, yes. I saw that my girlfriend had a Coca-Cola, a box where she, a cold box to keep food in, but it said Coca-Cola on the outside, and I said, I think we ought to start selling Cokes on the street corner because there's a lot of traffic here. I think I was 10 or 12 years old. And, of course, I had to do it away from my house. My father would have killed me. But we did. We started selling Coca-Cola. And the bus drivers would even stop and grab a Coke. It was hysterical. And then my father found out about it, and that was the end of that. But that was my beginning into entrepreneurial work. And so, yes, this is influencers now. Well, I want to go back to the Playbook because I really love it. Every week, every 2 weeks, we have a film funding class. And this, I'm just giving it to them, Christie, in little bites because I'm not going to let them get away with not going to it and paying attention to it. So this week we're doing audience targeting and creating partnerships. That's what I'm teaching. Quoting out of your playbook to drive them there so that they recognize the brilliance behind this book. So share with us audience targeting and creating partnerships, please.
Oh, my goodness. That is, someone actually wrote this in because we have a forum in which anyone can submit ideas and contributions to. And someone was like, this section could very much be expanded. I'm like, this section could be an entire website on its own of like audience identification. So there's I give that caveat of like, this is just the beginning of it. But again, it goes back to first be able to super hyper target your audience. And in in the marketing world, if you're marketing a product, you have to do audience or consumer profiles, and you really build a character in your mind of who's going to go watch your film. It is I'm going to stick with the horse documentary here. I think I was reading about it in Documentary Minus blog today. I'm looking at if it's a documentary, but it's meant for young women and to know how to best treat their horses. I'm really making this up here. I'm picturing a girl, maybe 12 to 14 years old. She has to live somewhere where there's a horse ranch, so maybe there's somewhat rural, but I need a high density of people, so maybe it's within a 25-mile radius of a major city. Let's say Los Angeles, because I know that there are some horse ranches out there. And she has an estimated, family income of about this size. And you start to build that picture. And that is exactly, I'm trying to reach her. And it humanizes your audience a bit. And that's one type of person I'm trying to reach. And I'm also trying to reach her parents. So typically, maybe statistically, there's this horse girl. I presume she has two parents maybe, but the mom takes her to classes. So I also am trying to target moms who are buying clothes in the horse category for their daughter. And so where do they buy that from? So what magazines do they read? What websites do they go to? What clothing shops do these two kind of character profiles go to? That's the level of specification you want to get when you're picturing your audience. And it allows you to do a couple different things. One, you can focus your time and energy, and two, you can focus your budget. So if you're doing Facebook ads or Instagram ads to find these profiles, you can really, really hone down into that specificity of age, location, and interest. And two, you know where to spend your time for publicity. If you're working with a publicist or you're doing it on your own, what are the different horse magazines? Where are you buying the horse clothes? And that's the type of outreach you do. So I guess that's the starting point, is knowing exactly who your audience is and how to reach them. On the other end of it, and this is the harder part, and there's some cool companies doing a good job at this, like Jolt. How do you know if you've reached them? And so I can email them, I can pitch them the film, but ultimately if they go to watch the film on another site, Amazon, YouTube, but let's say I don't have the rights to my film on YouTube, I don't know if they got there. And so the hard part about our industry is we don't always get we don't get to map the whole experience always. I can do my work to reach that audience. I actually don't know if they watched it on iTunes or Netflix because I don't have that data. And so there's some tools you can put in place. You can use Bitly links. You can follow up with surveys. You can do some of these influencer links for tracking. But unless it's on a platform like a YouTube or like us or like Jolt that allows you to see the audience afterwards, it's hard to know if the work you're doing is impactful. So I can understand also why it is difficult to approach this audience targeting when you can do all the work and you're ultimately not certain if you actually got to that audience. Then partnerships, because you mentioned that. Yeah.
Because they don't share Netflix or any of the streamers. They don't share with you who your audience is.
To my knowledge, I think in some ways you might get some reports. I hear maybe Hulu might share some reports, Apple might do some high-level stuff, but you don't know granularly. And so if you're doing active distribution and you're really involved in that process and you're paying for your ads and everything, you kind of do need to know if it's working or not. So, and then the partnerships piece, the partnerships would be looking at the organizations or the individuals who are doing kind of a trade-off in a sense. What do they get in exchange for promoting the film? We used to put in order at Picture Motion the types of partnerships. This is purely a promotional partnership where they're like, you know what, we're going to post a tweet and an Instagram because this is something our readers and followers will find interesting, and that's enough. Is there a financial partnership? They're going to promote the film and they get a portion of the ticket sales. Or they get to lead a Q&A with the filmmaker in theaters, or they can do a ticket giveaway in exchange for promotion or support. What are they also getting out of it financially or I guess socially? And then there's creative and strategic partners. Are we bringing in organizations earlier to be a part of the process so that they can inform the film in some way or inform the strategy? And in that case, they might get more from a revenue standpoint, or just from a partnership standpoint, they can ensure that the film is something they can definitely promote to their audience later on. I think it's also important to make kind of a hierarchy in a sense, of partnerships and where different organizations and people fit into it.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. What are you getting from feedback? Are you getting from filmmakers about the distribution playback? Do they like it?
I think so. It's like we've gotten some good. The form is mostly things that are missing, which are great. That's what we have the form there for, so it's helpful. People want more case studies. Overall, yes, it's been really, really wonderfully received, truly. I think we were both genuinely surprised. And part of it is, like, well, I guess if it made sense to us, if this doesn't exist, we should create it. It made sense other people would like it to be there. But case studies, that's the thing we get the question for the most, and it makes complete sense. Everything here is theory and information and based off experience, but at the end of the day, most people want to see something tangible. What does that film do to get there? And so collecting that just takes time. So we hope that more people will share their case studies. And we call them either a full case study, what did you do from soup to nuts for your film, or give us an example of a distribution or marketing innovation. And we got this from Amy Hobby from Distribution Advocates, which I love as a phrase. What's an innovation you did? And that could be one type of screening event, one type of marketing initiative, one type of influencer partnership that helps move the numbers or got some press or something, because that is so tactical and helpful to share as well. If anyone's listening, you want to share something you've done, please tell us so we can share it with other filmmakers. So all boats rise together.
Exactly. Well, I noticed Ted Hope is following the Playbook and talking about it in his online, his blog? Right.
Yes, Hope for Film. Ted Hope is a great Substack. I think it's called Hope for Film, and I highly recommend it.
Yes, it's brilliant. Well, he brought us some Academy Award-winning films, and before they bought him out, they wanted to keep him away. Ted was putting his little low-budget film out and distributing it to such a power that he was nominated for many Academy Awards, and the studios are really upset because their budgets were 10 times his, and they weren't getting in. So he is a very creative guy. I think that's quite a compliment, Christie.
Yeah. Oh, yes. No, it's a huge compliment. I'm such a fan, and I've learned so much from him. I think you said this before, most people in this space are generous. Like, they want to help the industry. We want to see more great films. And it's when you're on the indie side, you kind of have to work together and collaborate in order to see things happen. So everyone that's in it is doing it, I feel like, for the right reasons. We want to see great film. We want to support great storytellers. And especially in America, you have to operate within a primarily capitalistic system. It's no diss to capitalism. I appreciate it many days. But you have to make money off these films. Films are expensive. So how do we continue to support great art, but also in a system that requires you to spend a lot of money and have the film make money through certain avenues? So I think it's really generous to see Substacks like John Reese's 8 Above. You mentioned Stephen Follows before, Distribution Advocates, who are very generously giving their time to this industry.
Exactly. And we're used to that because we're doing the same thing. We're working outside of our required delivery. We're doing more than we signed up for, but it's the way of the film industry. People are very generous in this industry. So
it's true.
Let me talk about engaging audiences. So what do you suggest for filmmakers to create meaningful community screenings through Kinema?
Yay, that's interesting. Let's assume the marketing part goes well, right? You do the outreach part, and people show up. Then it's about creating the experience, and it's been so fun. I get to sneak into so many screenings essentially that are virtual, and even though we built the virtual component for screenings during the pandemic, basically mimicking what was happening in person online, we still about half of our events are in person and half of them are virtual, whether they're live virtual or people can watch on their own time. And those live virtual events often have just such incredible energy, people in the chat room. So when you enter the virtual cinema, it opens 30 minutes before the film starts and people can start chatting. And you see that type of energy and community. And often it's there. And one great thing to do is the host is usually in there, the host of the event. If the filmmakers or the talent can join, it creates just a different energy. You feel directly connected because it's live. And so having someone kind of stoke the fires of that chat and kind of keep people talking, that is a great way to create a communal experience, to make people really feel present. I have seen screenings before where it's a live event, but no one's chatting, but also no one's prompting them to chat. People are always afraid to be the first YouTube, if you ever look at the YouTube comment section, it's different. People want to be first. If it's a live event and it's people you know, oftentimes people are a little nervous to go first. So have a moderator that can kind of keep that conversation going. I do a live introduction. I'm going to speak mostly about virtual, and then I'll go to in-person. Do a live introduction. Get on 5 minutes before, 2 minutes before, because watching a movie online in a shared, in a synced version of it, it doesn't always quite feel live. You see the text chat, but when someone comes on and is like, I'm here, here's a video feed, welcome, you're like, oh, this really is a live event. There are real humans around, including the filmmakers or the hosts behind this event. So do a live intro, and then have a conversation afterwards. We always tell people, leave them wanting more. You don't need to have a 90-minute post-screening conversation after a 2-hour film. Like, respect people's time, leave them wanting more, and keep the panelists to under 5 people. 3 is usually best, and it allows a conversation to happen, but still room for questions, and then take questions from the audience. So all those, that's more, while I'm describing like how to create a good event, that makes it like a communal experience, and it's sticky with people, and that in a way fosters community. And then for the in-person events, it's really about the physical space and who owns that space and what that community is about. So if it is a community that just comes in and watches, if it's a faith-based community and there's a prayer beforehand, if it's a drinking community, I think it really varies based off of what that space is really for, and that what are the bonding agents that community already has. Does that kind of make sense, or does that answer the question?
Whoa, that's brilliant. Yes, you know your stuff. That's great. Thank you. Now, how do you reach the international distribution, and what advice would you give to filmmakers who are looking to expand their reach globally?
Oh, well, I can tell you from us, from our Kinema perspective, well, the majority of our audience is, I'd say, Western English speaking. It's mostly U.S. because we're based in the U.S. That's our network. Our site is set in English. And while we do payments and payouts in 46 countries, the primary currency is dollars. So I say we come from that perspective a bit. We very much want to grow. Every new film that comes on the platform, if they have a more international audience, that brings in more international audience to the platform. And our idea is, I feel like I've said this a couple of times, so forgive me, Carol, but it's like all boats rise together. And so while we want to provide a set of tools and a way for you to build audience, export that audience that works for your film, it's a way for us to build a wider audience of people interested in independent film and community. So I say that because as more international films come on or international audiences come on, we want to be able to serve them more international titles. So as a company that's very small and still in startup mode, we have to be thoughtful about how we spend our time and energy and money. So we don't have the massive budget to go global. Similar to how we talked about filmmakers on honing in on your audience, if we try and be a global platform, we're competing with Netflix and TikTok, and that is very expensive. So we have to focus on what's going to reach more immediate success, and that tends to be in the U.S. But for filmmakers trying to go global, it's kind of similar too. I think talk with distribution partners who are in those countries that you're trying to reach and figure out what works for your film. Why do you want to distribute your film in the Philippines? Or why will your film do well in the Netherlands? Like, where do you want that film to reach and why? And then I would put it in priority order. If it's a primarily Spanish-speaking film, yes, go to the Latin American market. Find distribution partners down there. Go to the film festivals down there to help spread word of mouth. I think first it's audience targeting, then put in order of priority to different countries and regions and territories, talk to different distribution partners and distribution strategists, and focus on film festivals in those countries. And, of course, if your film is in the language of those countries, it's going to be much easier. And we always ask people, when you can, add as many types of subtitles that you can in different languages. The majority of the films we get usually offer, I'd say about 90% do closed captioning in English, though we'd love to get to 100%. And the secondary language is typically Spanish, unless the film is from another country, and then they'll have a few more languages. But we don't get a lot of language options. So I think if you really want your film to be international, you have to be ready to create subtitles in all those different languages. Those are some thoughts on international.
Yes, that's very important. Well, tell us now how people can reach Kinema.
Oh, just go to Kinema. It's the same spelling as Cinema, except for it's a K instead of a C. No worries. It's so funny. I always joke we picked the name and we're building like in the pandemic because we launched in 2021. And it was just our team saying it. And once we started talking to people on the phone, we're like, oh, yeah, it can be pronounced differently. But you can go to just kinema.com. You can email us at films@kinema.com. You can go to support.kinema.com, and there's a bunch of how-to videos and demos, because some of this sounds hard to picture, and it's hard to show online in a virtual demo to show how the virtual screening room works on Zoom. So support.kinema.com, kinema.com, and films@kinema.com.
Great. Well, talk to us about impact-driven content. How do you support films with social impact? And what type of films tend to resonate most with audiences on your platform?
I mean, you nailed it already. That was social issue films are by far the most popular, and documentaries, and because there's much overlap with documentary and social impact. And I think that's because our platform is centered on community distribution, or we used to call it human distribution, human-led distribution. Sorry, wow, I can't even get my words right. Human-centered distribution, when we were more focused on in-person screenings, and it's still a core part of what we do. And you have a human at the center. There is an individual who is booking the screening of the film. We are not programming it into a theater. We don't do that type of distribution. A theater has an audience. People come to expect movies from it. We are working with people who are bringing a film into a different physical space or now online. And those humans are motivated by something besides just the film. It is the community aspect, bringing people together, or the social issue in the film, because by getting people to watch that film, they'll understand an issue, can change hearts and minds and policy. So because of that, that's why those films do the best. There isn't a massive community, or I should say massive network of individuals that feel as passionately about hosting screenings for horror films. There are plenty of film clubs that do horror films, but not on the same scale or with the same fervor or drive because of the importance of the issues covered in the film. So impact-driven films by far perform the best, especially documentaries. And how do we support them? I'd say they actually, the tool set's the same for every type of film. We give promotional guide. We show people how you can share your impact kit with the screening host. That all is the same whether it's a horror film or a social issue film. So I think the difference might be is that we have a lot of experience in doing social issue films, so we can chat more strategically from that perspective than we could for a typical rom-com or horror film.
Okay. Now, in closing, tell us any advice you have for filmmakers, particularly, let's say, filmmakers just starting out, or those who are ready to get into distribution and they're not sure of how to do that.
I think if you're just starting out, I think if you want to get ahead of the game, or you want to put yourself in the best position to continue to create the films that you want to create, there's all different types of filmmaking, right? Like you can do for-hire projects or work for different production companies and kind of work your way up. But if you're an auteur, you want to tell certain type of stories that you don't feel are going to be supported by the traditional system, then treat your film as a business plan. What type of film is it? How are you going to tell that story? What is it going to cost, and how do you make that money back? Because that'll give you so much freedom and autonomy, so to not be dependent on a sale or sales agent selling your film for you, which we love sales agents, and I do think they are a necessary part of our system. But it gives you freedom and autonomy over your film's release if you plan ahead and raise money for the marketing and distribution of that film, and make a plan for reimbursing your investors, or go get money that you don't need to reimburse. Get money from foundations or raise money that you don't have to return. So I think really approach your film like it's a startup business and how you're going to make money without needing as many outside players. I think that's probably my main piece of advice.
That's exactly right. You're going to have to do most of it yourself, and you might as well realize that going in. Or I recommend that filmmakers find friends or people in film school who would love to graduate with a credit in a documentary or in a feature, and go on as the social networker and do some work for them. Work 3 hours a week and promote it on social networks and get a credit in the film, because 3 hours a week works out to what is normally a 1-month job. And so it's worth it for both parties. And there's always somebody that will help you. Yes.
That's a good idea.
So.
I think That's actually, yeah, it's like 3 hours. I think it's always hard to, like many industries, like the filmmaking space is biased towards those who maybe have family funding or trust funds or something to help support them or something to fall back on. So donating and volunteering and doing free internships is sometimes favors those who have the ability and the fortune to do so. And so I think that's finding that right balance too. Can you dedicate a small amount of time to get that credit, knowing that you also probably still have to work or make money? So it's tough to do the free labor aspect of it. But I think it's true. I always look at IMDb credits. Like I look at, if you're on Portrait, I look at your projects on Portrait. So yes, the more credits you can get, I think it will absolutely help raise the profile. And look for community. You need community support. Brown Girls Doc Mafia is an amazing support network for women and non-binary people in film. Portrait is a great app. It's like LinkedIn, but for filmmakers. Hustle Up is helping people find jobs. I think mostly below the line, might be above the line too. There are great communities to be a part of. I recommend doing that as well.
Oh, great. Thank you very much for mentioning them. Yes, I've sent a lot of people to Brown Docs. They are brilliant.
Yeah, they really are.
And if you want to hire someone, that's a great place to go. And the other is Femme Fatales. They have a wonderful group of filmmakers, too, for features.
Oh, you're right. Yes, 100%.
Well, thank you. This has been so enlightening, so forward-thinking and creative, and we really appreciate you and the work you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always fun to talk with you, and thank you for hosting the show and making this information so accessible for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, you're so welcome. And Claire and I'll check back with you in a year and see what's new and where you're going.
All right, sounds cool. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Carol.
You're welcome. Thank you, too.
Many blessings.
All right. Be well, everyone. Now, in its second edition, Carol Dean's popular book, The Art of Film Funding, has 12 new chapters to cover all areas of film financing and how to avoid expensive pitfalls. Learn how to start with an idea and end with a trailer, how to make an ask for money, create your story structure and your trailer, legal advice, fair use, successful crowdfunding, how to ask for music rights, and what insurance you can't shoot without. Available on Amazon under Carol Dean and at FromTheHeartProductions.com. I want to remind our listeners that David Raiklin is a brilliant and talented award-winning musician who scores films and can compose music for a trio or for a full orchestra. David is a very good friend to the independent filmmaker and comes highly recommended by From the Heart Productions. If you need music to help tell your story, please contact him at davidraiklin.com. That's David, RAIKLEN.com. And Carol and I want to thank you for tuning in to The Art of Film Funding. Please visit our website at FromTheHeartProductions.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Good luck with your films, everyone.
When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. At American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. Everybody needs some variety in life. That's what I love about Chumba Casino. They know how to keep things fresh and exciting. All their games are free to play, like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire. You can claim free daily login bonuses, too. And they release new games every week. So spice things up with ChumbaCasino.com now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.